Alright, in this video we're finally going to learn what an imaginary number is. So essentially it's the square root of a negative number. But the reason that these came up is when people are solving quadratics, you'll remember the quadratic formula looks something like this. And you had this thing called the discriminant inside the square root, and it was b squared take 4ac. It's just that bit inside there. So if the discriminant was positive, you're all good, you got two solutions. If the discriminant was 0, you're still all good, you've just got one solution. But if the discriminant was negative, then you're kind of sad because you have 0 real solutions. Now, we always use that keyword, real, and that's because we actually have two imaginary solutions, or usually the word we use is complex solutions. So in this video, we'll end up solving a quadratic, and we'll actually see that there are imaginary numbers that work for the quadratic. But the point is, an imaginary number is the square root of a negative number. In particular, this thing that we call I is the square root of -1. So where that comes from is like, if you're trying to do 2 squared, that gives you 4. But if you do -2 squared, that also gives you 4. So if you ask for the square root of -4, well, there's no number that really works for that, right? Because if it's a positive number, you're going to get +4 when you square it. If it's a negative number, you're still going to get positive. So this is a question we sort of can't answer with maths. And if you chuck it into your calculator, you probably get some sort of weird answer. Depending on what your calculator is set up to, it'll spit out an error, or it might spit out an imaginary solution. So essentially, we invented this number, square root of -1, and we call that I. So we can actually write -4 in terms of that. Square root of -4, you can split that out into, well, -1 times 4, which is going to be, actually I write it the other way, 4 times -1. So that's root 4 times root of -1, and now that's 2 times I, or in other words, it's 2i. So that is the square root of -4. Now we've written it in terms of I. Okay, so cool. We're going to simplify this one, square root of -3. So again, you're going to go square root of 3 times -1, which is root of 3 times root of -1, which is root of 3 times I. There we go. Simplify root of -16. So that is root of 16 times -1, which is root of 16 times root of -1, which is 4i. Next, we're going to calculate I squared. Well, it's -1. That's the definition of I. I cubed, I can write that as I squared times I. So I'm going to get -1 times I. So I cubed is actually -I, which is kind of cool. I to the 4, I can write that as I squared times I squared, which is -1 times -1. So I to the 4 is just 1. And if you keep going from I to the 5, I to the 6, I to the 7, you'll see a really cool pattern with that. Next, we're going to solve these equations. So solving these equations, you essentially just want to solve them as per normal. So what we would do in this equation is we'd think about adding 4 to both sides, and we'd hopefully get x on its own. So you're going to get x squared equals 4. So x equals plus or minus root 4. So that's plus or minus 2. That's our answer for x. You can see we got two answers there because this is a quadratic. Now we're going to have this equation x squared plus 4 equals 0. Basically the same. So what we do is we'd start by taking 4 from both sides. You're going to get x squared equals -4, and all of a sudden you're trying to get x equals plus or minus square root of -4. I think we actually talked about this earlier. Square root of -4 is just 2i, so this becomes plus or minus 2i. So that's our answer for x. You can see we got two imaginary answers there. It's really important to check this works. So if I had the x was 2i, then x squared would give me, 2i squared, which is going to give me 2 squared times I squared, which is 4 times -1, which is indeed -4. So yes, that does work. We're very happy. All right, next one we got x squared plus 1 equals 0. We'll have got this one. We're going to take 1 from both sides, and then you're going to end up with x squared equals -1. So x equals plus or minus root of -1. So x equals plus or minus I is your answer there. Next one we got is 2x squared plus 10 equals 0. So again, we'll solve that like a normal equation. So you're going to get 2x squared equals -10. So x squared equals -5 because you'll divide out by 2 on both sides. And x equals plus or minus square root of -5. So x is plus or minus root 5 of I. Just like that. Next one we're going to get is x squared plus 2x plus 5 equals 0. This is a proper full-on quadratic, so we do have to use the quadratic formula here. So I'm going to have a is 1, b is 2, c is 5, and then x equals minus b plus or minus square root of b squared take 4ac over 2a. That's our quadratic formula, and we're just going to plug in all those numbers and see if we can get our answer. 2 squared take 4 times 1 times 5 over 2 times 1. This one I picked because it'll work out quite nicely for us, but sometimes they're a bit messier. All right, minus 2 plus or minus square root of minus 16 over 2. Now square root of minus 16 is just 4i. So that's over 2. So you're going to get minus 1 plus or minus 2i once you divide everything by 2. So x is going to be minus 1 plus 2i or minus 1 take 2i. And I won't do it in this video, but what you can actually do is you can plug it into your calculator. You can go like minus 1 plus 2i squared plus 2 lots of minus 1 plus 2i plus 5 equals, chuck it in your calculator, you should get 0.